Have you ever wondered why so many older adults, men and women who seemed perfectly healthy just a few years earlier, begin to quietly fade in their late 70s, and often don't make it past 80? It's not heart disease, it's not cancer, and it's not simply old age. According to Dr. Michael Harris, a senior men's wellness specialist with over 30 years of experience, there's a lesser-known reason behind this decline. It's something deeply human, yet often overlooked: the gradual loss of connection to physical pleasure, especially solo pleasure. Dr. Harris believes that staying connected to this part of ourselves can do more than bring comfort. It may support better circulation, help balance hormones, keep the mind sharp, and even renew the will to live. In today's video, we'll gently explore this vital but often unspoken topic. Stay with us. You may discover something surprisingly uplifting for your health and your spirit. This is Senior Wellness, where small insights can lead to big changes. It often begins so quietly. Most people don't even notice it. Not at first. Older adults, those who've lived full, active lives, begin to feel something shifting inside. Not a sharp pain, not an obvious illness, but a gradual dimming of vitality. Over time, they may feel less engaged, less energized, less themselves. And when asked what's wrong, many can't quite explain it. In his decades of working with older adults, Dr. Michael Harris, a specialist in senior health and wellness, began noticing a common thread among thousands of his patients. Beneath the usual concerns about medications or cholesterol, there was often something unspoken, something deeply personal. When gently asked about physical intimacy, especially solo intimacy, many patients looked away, chuckled awkwardly, or simply grew quiet. Some hadn't thought about it in years. Others had quietly accepted the idea that pleasure, particularly self-pleasure, was no longer appropriate after a certain age. And yet, this silent withdrawal was taking a real toll. Emerging research from institutions like the University of Michigan and peer-reviewed studies in the Journal of Gerontology have shown that touch, intimacy, and connection, even solo touch, have measurable effects on hormone regulation, circulation, and emotional balance in older adults. When those elements are missing, blood flow slows, hormones like dopamine and oxytocin drop, and neural pathways tied to pleasure and emotional regulation begin to weaken. The effects: low energy, poor sleep, decreased motivation, a sense of fading from the inside out. Dr. Harris refers to this as the silent epidemic, a widespread yet hidden loss of connection to the body's natural rhythms of pleasure and vitality. It's not something that shows up on a lab report, yet it influences everything from mood to memory. And often, it's driven by a cultural myth that older adults should no longer engage with their own bodies in intimate ways, that such experiences are for the young. But biology tells a different story. One of Dr. Harris's former patients, Charles, an 81-year-old retired air traffic controller, came in for a routine wellness check. He had no major health concerns but confessed, almost in a whisper, that he felt like he was slowly disappearing. After his wife passed away over a decade earlier, he stopped all forms of intimacy, not because he couldn't, but because, in his words, it just didn't seem right anymore. With time and gentle encouragement, Charles began to reconnect, not through medication or drastic change, but through quiet moments of self-awareness and kindness toward his body. 6 months later, he returned with color in his cheeks and a twinkle in his eye. He'd started gardening again. He was sleeping more soundly, and he'd even signed up for a community dance class. "I didn't realize how much of myself I'd left behind," he told Dr. Harris, "but now I feel like I got a piece of me back." This story isn't rare. And it isn't about indulgence, it's about reconnection, about recognizing that physical pleasure, at any age, can be a source of emotional strength and aliveness. As we grow older, certain parts of life are quietly left behind. Some changes feel natural, careers slow down, families grow up, but others slip away, not because they must, but because we've been told they should. One of the most overlooked, the quiet connection we have with our own bodies, especially through solo physical pleasure. Dr. Michael Harris, who has spent over 30 years working with older adults, often hears a familiar refrain from patients in their 60s, 70s, and beyond: "I guess that part of me is over." It's usually said with a shrug, sometimes a nervous laugh, and often a note of sadness. Many genuinely believe they're too old for self-intimacy, or that it's no longer necessary. But according to Dr. Harris, that belief doesn't align with how the body works. Because the truth is, your body doesn't stop needing connection just because time has passed. Biologically, we're wired for sensation and touch throughout our entire lives. In fact, studies from institutions like the Kinsey Institute and published findings in the Archives of Sexual Behavior show that regular physical engagement, even through gentle solo stimulation, can support longevity by improving circulation, reducing stress hormones, and enhancing emotional resilience. And it's not about performance or chasing youthful intensity. It's about the ripple effect. Dr. Harris explains that light self-touch activates powerful internal processes. Endorphins rise, bringing calm and comfort, Dopamine and oxytocin improve mood and connection. Even testosterone sees a small boost in men, helping support muscle and bone strength. Blood vessels expand, circulation improves, and brain regions tied to memory and emotion come alive. In short, it's not just about pleasure. It's about preserving vitality from the inside out. Take Leonard, for example, a 76-year-old retired school principal, Dr. Harris once worked with. Leonard confessed he hadn't felt fully alive in over a decade. After losing his partner, he slowly detached from his own body, thinking that chapter had closed. But with patience and gentle encouragement, Leonard started reintroducing quiet moments of reconnection into his routine. No pressure, just presence. A few months later, his energy noticeably shifted. His sleep improved. He laughed more easily. "I look in the mirror now," Leonard said, "and I see someone who's still here, not just existing, but living again." Dr. Harris believes stories like Leonard's show what science is only beginning to understand, that regular self-connection can help maintain brain activity, hormonal balance, and emotional well-being. It's not about chasing youth, it's about honoring the body you have now. And perhaps most importantly, it's about remembering that age doesn't erase your need to feel, to connect, or to care for yourself in a deeply human way. Sometimes, what drains a person's vitality isn't age or illness. It's a quiet story they've been told and believed for too long. Dr. Michael Harris, a senior health specialist, has spent decades helping older adults gently untangle these hidden beliefs. And time and again, he's found 3 common misconceptions that quietly take away energy, joy, and connection later in life. Misconception number 1. Physical pleasure no longer matters at my age. This belief may sound harmless, but Dr. Harris sees it as a subtle form of self-abandonment. When older adults convince themselves that intimacy, especially with their own bodies, is no longer necessary, something deeper begins to fade. That quiet disconnection can affect everything from sleep to mood. Your need for touch, for sensation, doesn't vanish, it simply changes. Ignoring it doesn't lead to peace. It often leads to emotional flatness. Misconception number 2. Self-pleasure is shameful or inappropriate. Many people over 60 grew up during times when topics like solo intimacy were considered taboo. Cultural, religious, or family messages often carried a heavy dose of guilt. And while those messages may have been well-meaning, they planted seeds of shame that still linger decades later. One of Dr. Harris's patients, Dorothy, a 69-year-old retired piano teacher, once told him she hadn't touched her own body since her early 40s. "I was raised to believe it wasn't ladylike," she said. But after exploring these beliefs in a safe, compassionate way, she began to reconnect with her body. Slowly, the guilt loosened its grip. "I didn't realize how much of myself I'd shut away," she shared. Misconception number 3. Suppressing sexual energy helps preserve strength. It's a widespread myth, especially among older men, that holding back desire somehow conserves energy. But as Dr. Harris points out, biology doesn't work that way. Just like muscles weaken without use, the systems that regulate circulation, hormones, and nerve activity decline without engagement. Regular, gentle connection, especially solo, can help keep those systems active. It's not about intensity. It's about staying in tune with your body's natural rhythms. These beliefs don't vanish overnight. But when older adults begin to question them, even just a little, something shifts. They stop judging. They begin listening. And in that space, vitality often begins to return, not in dramatic ways, but in steady, life-giving moments that say, "I still matter. My body still matters." For many older adults, the challenge isn't resistance, it's uncertainty. Dr. Michael Harris often reminds us that most seniors aren't avoiding intimacy because they've lost the desire. They simply don't know where to begin. After years, sometimes decades of disconnect, the idea of returning to one's own body can feel unfamiliar or even intimidating. That's why Dr. Harris developed what he calls the restoration method, a gentle, step-by-step approach designed specifically for aging bodies and hearts. It's not about performance or pressure. It's about presence, rebuilding the quiet relationship between body and self in a way that feels natural, private, and deeply respectful. It begins with preparing the space not just physically, but emotionally. Something as simple as adjusting the lights, choosing a soft blanket, or ensuring the room is quiet can signal to the body, "This is a safe moment, just for you." That small shift in environment makes a big difference. From there, the next step is relaxation. Dr. Harris encourages deep, unhurried breathing. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts float by without judgment. Many people don't realize how much tension they carry until they consciously let it go. And in that release, the body begins to awaken. Next comes gentle exploration. This isn't about rushing toward a goal. It's about curiosity, touching areas like the chest, arms, or thighs not with expectation, but with openness. Ask yourself, how does this feel today? Over time, this builds trust between mind and body. When comfort begins to return, you can move into focused stimulation, slowly, intentionally, without a finish line in mind. Dr. Harris emphasizes that for many, the most meaningful moments aren't intense, they're subtle, emotional, and deeply grounding. Finally, there's integration, the part most people skip. Take a moment afterward to breathe, be still, and thank your body. That simple act of gratitude restores not just physical awareness, but self-respect. One of Dr. Harris's patients, Ron, a 78-year-old widower, described it this way: "I didn't realize how disconnected I'd become until I felt that warmth again. Not just in my body, but in how I see myself." That's the heart of the restoration method. Not performance, but reconnection. A return to honoring your body not as something broken or old, but as something still deeply worthy of care, even with the best intentions. The journey of reconnecting with one's body isn't always smooth. Dr. Michael Harris often reminds his patients that healing, especially the kind that involves rediscovering pleasure and presence, is rarely a straight path. There are challenges along the way, and understanding them can make all the difference. One of the most common: inconsistency. Life is busy. No matter your age, appointments, family, distractions all make it easy to say, "I'll try again next week." But just like building muscle or improving flexibility, this type of reconnection needs gentle, regular attention. Dr. Harris suggests reframing it as a small act of self-care, like tending a garden. A few quiet moments each week, offered not out of obligation, but out of respect for yourself, can lead to real, lasting change. Then there's performance pressure, something many people quietly carry, especially men. The idea that every session must lead to climax, or that anything less is a failure, can create stress that actually blocks the body's ability to relax. Dr. Harris reminds us, this isn't about reaching a destination. It's about simply being present. The most meaningful progress often happens in the quiet moments, where there's no goal at all, just curiosity and care. Of course, the deepest challenge for many is emotional, shame or self-judgment. These feelings often trace back decades to early messages about what's appropriate, moral, or normal. But those voices don't reflect who you are today. When they rise, Dr. Harris encourages his patients to meet them with compassion, not criticism. He recalls a woman named Janice, age 76, who came to him after months of quiet practice. With tears in her eyes, she said, "For the first time in years, I don't feel invisible to myself." That moment didn't come from a breakthrough in performance. It came from showing up, softly and consistently. The truth is, every challenge along this path can be met not with force, but with gentleness, by listening instead of judging, by honoring progress, no matter how small, and by remembering that reconnection is not a task to complete, but a relationship to nurture. Sometimes, the most powerful proof doesn't come from textbooks or research papers. It comes from real people who dared to believe that life wasn't over yet. Dr. Michael Harris has witnessed these quiet transformations many times over the years. Each one begins not with perfect health or bold confidence, but with a single choice: to reconnect. He remembers Raymond, a 79-year-old former mechanic who came into his office feeling flat. He wasn't sick. He wasn't in crisis. But since losing his wife several years earlier, he said he felt like he was just existing. There was no joy, no spark, just days blending into each other. With time and gentle encouragement, Raymond began to explore the idea of connecting with his body again. No expectations, just presence. 3 months later, he looked different, lighter somehow. He had started gardening again, reached out to old friends, and even joined a local bowling league. "It's like something turned back on," he told Dr. Harris. "I didn't realize how much I'd dimmed the lights until I saw them come back." Another story stays close to Dr. Harris's heart. Evelyn, 73, a retired nurse, once believed the part of her that felt feminine and alive had died with her husband. She had poured all her energy into her grandchildren and volunteer work, telling herself that joy was for the past. But slowly, with compassion and care, she began to reclaim small moments just for herself. A warm bath, soft music, quiet time to breathe and feel. Months later, Evelyn shared something simple but profound. "Colors look brighter now. I laugh more. I feel like me again." What these stories reveal is something many seniors don't hear enough. It is never too late. That flicker of life, of joy, of self, it's still there. And for those willing to reconnect, it often returns with more strength and meaning than ever before. Once the spark of reconnection begins, many older adults naturally ask, "What's next?" According to Dr. Michael Harris, that's when the complete restoration system can make a lasting difference. It's not about major changes or rigid routines. It's a gentle rhythm of daily habits designed to support mind, body, and spirit, one small, intentional step at a time. It starts with something simple: breath, controlled. Mindful breathing has been shown in studies from Harvard Health and the Cleveland Clinic to improve circulation, reduce cortisol, and calm the nervous system. Dr. Harris often recommends beginning the morning with 5 slow, deep breaths, shoulders relaxed, eyes closed, fully present. Just that moment can set the tone for the rest of the day. Next comes gentle movement. You don't need intense workouts to reconnect with your body. A short walk around the block, a few standing stretches near a sunny window, or even spending 60 seconds each morning standing tall, chest open, shoulders back can quietly awaken blood flow and posture. These small acts restore a sense of dignity and physical presence. Then, there's nourishment not about dieting or cutting calories, but about feeding your energy. Dr. Harris encourages his patients to stay hydrated, add whole foods that support hormone health, and avoid the temptation to skip meals out of habit. A simple smoothie with spinach, berries, and flaxseed can do more than just satisfy hunger. It can help the body stay vibrant. And finally, the heart of it all, presence. A few minutes each day to pause and ask, how am I feeling today? This simple check-in can gently shift decisions and build a sense of self-awareness that strengthens over time. Dr. Harris recalls Walter, a 75-year-old former jazz pianist, who began practicing this system after months of feeling low. 3 months later, he smiled and said, "It's like someone turned the volume back up on my life." If you're considering small changes like these, it's always wise to check in with your doctor, especially when starting something new. But know this, vitality isn't lost with age. Often, it just needs an invitation to return. You're never too old to feel alive, connected, and at peace in your own body. Small steps can awaken big changes, starting with presence, kindness, and curiosity. Tomorrow, take just one moment to listen to yourself. And if you're unsure, always feel free to speak with your doctor. If you're still with me and found this video helpful, leave a 0 or 1 in the comments. I'd love to know you're here. And if this message touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter starts now.